everyone. Welcome to our peaceful classroom. My name is Mirma Tico Ortiz from Miriam College, and I will be your host for today's episode entitled Discovering Peace Through Education.
Welcome to our sacred space.
Our peaceful
classroom.
This sacred space, our peaceful classroom, is a dedicated space where parents, teachers, and other professionals can come together to talk about ideas on how to promote positivity and peace within ourselves, our families, and communities. Today we have with us Mia Estipona and Beverly Orozco. Mia is the project officer of Generation Peace Youth Network and a graduate of Miriam College International Studies program in 2015. As a student, she served as president of Pax Christi Miriam College. Beverly Orozco is the program director for advocacy and networking at the Gaston Z. Ortigas Peace Institute. She also graduated from Miriam College in 1995 and was one of the founding members of Pax Christi Miriam College. Today, we will be discussing how peace education created an impact on their lives and how this continues to influence the way they live their lives and the things that they do.
Hi everyone! Hello there, Mia and Bev. Thank you so much for joining us here on our Peaceful Classroom. It's such a joy to have the both of you and really making time this wonderful summer day. Can you kindly introduce yourself? Maybe we can start off with Mia and then followed by Bev.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Mia. I'm the project officer of Generation Peace Youth Network. I'm also a graduate of Miriam. I graduated around 2015 and was also an officer for Pax Christi.
Bev?
Hi everyone, I'm Beverly Orozco. I'm the program director for advocacy and networking at the Gaston Z. Ortigas Peace Institute. Currently the head of the secretariat of Generation Peace Youth Network, also a graduate of Miriam College International Studies back in 1995 and one of the founding members of Pax Christi Miriam College.
Wow. So great for you to be here. Thank you for mentioning Pax Christi. For our viewers who are not familiar with Pax Christi is part of the international group called Pax Christi International. So here in the Philippines, we have Pax Christi Filipinas, and we also have a chapter in Miriam College, called Pax Christi Miriam College, where Mia was president when she was a student there. And Bev was also an active member. She's the founding, so she said she did mention that she was a founding member of Pax Christi Miriam College. So we have here Mia and Bev, who are both young but also very seasoned peace advocates. So for today, we're so happy that they could share with us their time, and we're going to have this wonderful conversation. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in. Are you guys ready? Ready na? Okay. So my first question is, we really want to know, how did you start your peace journey? So how did you begin your peace journey? Any one of you can answer. It could be Bev or Mia.
Okay, maybe I'll go ahead. So It's nothing really significant. I wouldn't say it's something grand or anything. But when I was in high school, there are two things that really sparked my interest when it comes to peace. The first one is a bit shallow. So I really liked the Beatles when I was young. So because John Lennon was into peace, diba? So parang, this is interesting. Maybe I should also try to learn more about peace. But then also when I was in high school, there was an incident in Mindanao that really bothered me in many ways. I don't know if you remember about the massacre in Maguindanao. So that happened when I was in high school. And eventually, when I got into college, I was studying international studies as well. And Miriam, I think especially the department was really into educating the students when it comes to the peace and the conflict in Mindanao. So I think that sparked more interest and then eventually led me to where I am right now.
Wow. So it really was brought about by your education and your exposure as well. Thank you, Mia. How about you, Bev?
Yeah, for me, I think it's really started back in college when I was in third year college, where we were actually doing our thesis. So we're exploring topics, and then eventually we focused on our thesis and on the economic embargo impact on the people of Iraq and Kuwait. Back then, there was war in Middle East. We started looking for resources, and there's a specific collection on peace in our libraries. And eventually, I often visit the Center for Peace Education mini library, and that actually sparked my interest in peace. And then, of course, graduating, I had some advice from Dr. Sina. Why don't you explore working for an NGO? I know Gaston Z. Ortigas Peace Institute, and you might want to apply there. And then I did some background about the institute, and it actually had me get interested in working for peace.
So both of your sharing really goes back to peace education, right? And the importance of peace education and how that sparked a wider interest that changed your life in a sense, and you really made it part of your career. So that's wonderful. So Bev, you were mentioning Dr. Loretta Castro. Dr. Loretta Castro was the founders of the center, or she founded the Center for Peace Education in Miriam College, and I think all three of us uh, got to work with Dr. Castro and everyone else there, the Center for Peace, Dr. Jazz, as well. So yun na nga, going back, talagang peace education really matters
Yes.
in influencing people when you want them to understand more about peace. Okay, now jumping now to my next question and talking about peace education. What peace values do you apply to your work?
I should probably start right now.
Yeah, go ahead,
Um,
Bev.
but for peace values, it's really understanding. Number one, very important for me is understanding and accepting differences and diversity. It also builds up on how you relate with different people, even people coming from different walks of life. It's really how you relate to them. And of course, another value is really non-violence. I mean, back in college, I had some violent tendencies, but not really violent. I'm not a bully, but really, I don't like injustices like classmates being taking their notes, their notes being taken away from them, failing to review because the notes are with other people. But for me, injustices and seeing, and I was actually also exposed in some field work during college. I don't remember social involvement, Office of Social Involvement. I saw injustices with people, even with labor sectors, senior citizens, youth, and even for women. The injustices. promoting justice and or search for justice was a huge value for me, particularly in this kind of work. And nawala ako sa and of course, responsibility to your community, respect also to other people. I mean, the core of the value that I see is respect for diversity and accepting these differences.
So you were talking about when you were in high school, when you were in college, that you had like mas parang violence yung parang may violent tendency, but because of your classes and highlighting non-violence, that kind of change also your perspective and change how you view things and address things. Because you were also involved with the I believe was it INSA during that time, no, in Miriam College. There was a
INSA,
yeah, there
yes.
was a office there that really helped students become, volunteer in the different communities. So you were talking about that. So nakita mo yung injustice doon, but then you chose the non-violent way of addressing or helping in your own way as a student. So thanks, Beth, for sharing that. Mia, what about you?
Okay, so
What
I have
value? Yeah.
okay, go. So I have a few things, but top of my head, first one is really listening. I think when I was growing up, people would always tell me, you should learn how to listen and not do anything while someone is speaking, especially when I was in high school. But um, it's really hard to do something when you don't understand where they're coming from. But I think learning, as I also work for peace, that listening um, is different when you know that people are coming from different perspectives, and that makes us realize that um, what I one thing that I wanted to share in Gen Peace, everyone always says na walang tama or mali. So everyone is free to speak about their own thoughts, and you would just really get amazed how different we truly are. But then at the same time, even if everyone is really different, you would always find like a common ground. So, and if you don't know how to listen, that's really hard to do. Kasi you think na ikaw lang yung tama and yung gusto mo lang sabihin, yung gusto mong pag-usapan. But that's not how it is in doing piecework. So that's one thing. And then also because of listening, I think I also learned how to gather my thoughts first before speaking. And that's really helpful because sometimes when we talk a lot, we you might parang unconsciously hurt someone, and we don't want to do that. And it's always important to always be aware of what you say. And then also another thing is that I think listening also humbles one person. And that's very important, not just in piecework, but in general, really. Like, you really have to be humble, especially in interacting with other people. And yes, lastly, I think perspective on things. It really changed because I think mas naging understanding ako in a way because of listening as well. I think understanding in a way that you can't assume, so you don't judge people right away. And I guess that's one of the most important things that I've learned also.
Thank you, Mia. That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So the importance of listening and how it humbles people and how, by listening, you're also, parang may self-reflection din di ba? Pagka nag-listen ka. So I want to go back. You mentioned Gen Peace, but we didn't talk about what Gen Peace is all about. Maybe you can give us a quick introduction so that this can go, when you discuss, people know a little bit more about Gen Peace and GZO so that in my next question they'll have a context. So go ahead, Mia, you can talk about Gen Peace, and then we'll switch back to Bev to talk about GZO.
Okay, so Gen Peace, we're a network based in Quezon City, but we're a nationwide network that has clusters all over from Luzon to Mindanao, and we focus on peace, human rights, and democracy. One thing I think, not to be so formal, but what I'm always so proud of Gen Peace is that um, I think everyone is leading the network in a way that everyone has a say in their decision, and everyone parang may ownership sa network. So I'm really proud of that, and that's what one thing that I wanted to share, like unang-una when it comes to Gen Peace.
Thank you, Mia. Bev, ano naman tong GZOIP, di ba? Ang haba ng acronym. Maybe you can talk about it, just a little bit.
Yeah, GZO Peace Institute is the Gaston Z. Ortigas Peace Institute. The name is an inspiration from a peace advocate, one of the pioneer peace advocates, Gaston Z. Ortigas. Um, GZO Peace Institute was formed in 1991 specifically to support formations, peace formations that do advocacy on peace agenda. And right now, our office mainly focuses on indigenous peoples, women, and youth advocacy. GZO provides secretariat support, technical support, training support to various networks. One is Generation Peace Youth Network. That's Gen Peace is under my program, under the Peace Advocacy and Networking. Second one is Women Engaged in Action 1325. It's another network of women peace builders. And then previously, GZO supported various disarmament campaigns and the National Peace Conference, a network of different sectors campaigning for the I forgot, social reform agenda back in 1998, 1999.
Thank you so much for giving us the background of GZO. So GZO and GenP. So these are two. Can you consider them as national organizations because of their coverage or national part of national networks now that really works on different issues on peace and specifically the youth, women, and the indigenous people, and of course our brothers and sisters in Mindanao. So it's a huge network that it's part of. Correct. Okay, so ngayon naman, listening into the organizations that you are part of, a question popped into mind. How did you, who were your mentors? Who were your mentors in this entire process? So, and then how did you find your mentors or did they find you?
Okay, maybe I'll start. It's really funny kasi my mentors are both in the room. So,
Sorry, I didn't ask that question, so you can highlight us.
I know. No, but I think I would consider that I have three mentors. So, first one, syempre si Ate Mirma. I used to call her Miss Mirma because she was our moderator when I was still the president of Pax Christi.
Yak na mulan,
And
yeah.
no, no. I think never ko naman outright din sinabi na kung sino yung mentors ko publicly, but I consider both my mentors. And then also Ate Bev, especially because since siya rin yung parang nag-oversee talaga how we should also do things and also be able to do what we have to do in Gen Peace. But I think I will just look at the common things that both of my mentors have, is that you have to really be able to understand that what you're doing is part of who you are. It's not something that you can compartmentalize. Kasi that's also one of my problems when I was still in college, that I really like compartmentalizing a lot of things. And that parang also made it difficult for me to understand who I really am. But both from my mentors, I understood that being part of a network or working in peace work is really going back to the identity that you're part of a community. And that community, hindi lang yun yung parang idealistic na, oh, we have to work for peace, ganyan. But you're really sharing your lives with each other. So I guess that's one. And then another mentor of mine is, I won't say his name anymore, but I used to work with him in the previous work. But he is also from Mindanao. He's from Sulu. And I think yung nakuha ko naman sa kanya is really being humble. That's also kaya ko rin nasabi na parang listening is also allowing one person to be humble. Kasi this person, I really learned how he used this parang no, not used, but siya yung tipo na tao na who can really listen intently and really be able to connect kasi parang naintindihan niya yung sinabi ng kausap niya.
Iba nga yung ano, no, yung pagka yung pinapakinggan ka, iba kasi pinapakinggan ka lang, at iba yung naintindihan ka. So it's not just
Yeah.
echoing what the other person is saying, but in the process of listening, also understanding the person much better kung yung context niya. Ganun ba Mia? That's
Yeah.
ang ganda nung naturo nung mentor niya. Ang ganda nung
Yeah.
tinuro nung mentor na yun sa'yo. So thanks for
I think
sharing.
thank you. But also, I think something that I can also add, because recently, Gen Peace is also running a training. Tapos, first time, ako din yung participant. So, it's really nice. But one thing that I also learned throughout the lesson is that when you ask questions, you have to always put yourself in their shoes. Kung ikaw yung sasagot doon, ano yung mafe-feel mo, ano yung gusto mong i-share. And that's how you can actually connect with other people. So, yun, I just wanted to add that.
So not just asking a question for the sake of asking a question, but also trying to understand deeper where the person is coming from. That's very
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you. Bev, what about you? Did your mentor find you, or did you find your mentor?
I think I found them. I have three actually. Well, one may similar qualities actually si Dr. Castro, Dr. Loretta Castro, and Karen Tanyada, of course, who's our current executive director at the Gaston Z. Ortigas Species. Both overwhelming ang aura, yung peace aura nila na nagre-reflect sa personalities nila. Unang-una, I appreciate or learn from them yung pagiging non-confrontational. Um, Pangalawa sa characteristic nila is very accommodating. And before, yung connect pa sa non-confrontational, they first fully trying to understand the problem. Hindi sila nagja-judge, hindi nila parang hindi sila reactive. They think first. May thought process sila when looking into issues coming from different perspectives. Tapos humble, humility, number one. You'll never hear them brag about their achievements. And I think doon din ako nahulma na you're doing your job. It's just part of doing our job, contributing to peace work. Um, on the other hand, um, the third one is Ed Legaspi. He was my supervisor when I was still a junior staff in GZO Peace Institute. Siya naman yung babad sa mga sektor. He led the National Peace Conference back in 2000 until 2008. And doon ako sa program niya. And doon ako na-expose of understanding. Ang tinuruan niya ako na don't just look at an issue from a single perspective. Tapos don't just look at a person na sa surface level lang. It's really deepening your relationship, understanding saan nanggagaling yung tao, at the same time yung mga issues kailangan mo. Dito siya mismo, sa kanya ako mismo natuto of the human rights based perspective. Siya yung at saka siya din yung kung sila Dr. C at saka si Karen ay non-confrontational, having reflecting first. Si Ed naman, doon ako natuto na don't just take things as is. Tapos yung mga constructive criticism, diyan ako natuto sa kanya. And I still I still talk to him, and when I'm in a dilemma or medyo confused din ako minsan sa mga decisions ko, I sometimes text Dr. C, Karen, and Ed Legaspi for some advice. Just to mag-centering ulit ako with the help of who I consider my mentors.
Wow, Bev, thank you for sharing. Talaga nga, no, I know the people because I know the people that Bev is referring to. And I see that in them. I really see that in them. And I guess we are so blessed to know them. And Bev, you're so blessed to have them as your mentors who you can turn to anytime, any day. and we still are there to support you each step of the way. So now we go to the next question. Now, we were talking about mentors and the work that you do, but I'm also very curious, and perhaps our viewers will be able to learn about your work experience. So, what is the most significant thing you learned from your work? So, Mia earlier was talking about the importance of listening. Bev was talking about the importance of non-violence as a way of life as well. But aside from those two that you've highlighted, what are the significant things that you've learned in your work?
At the back.
Ako muna, sige. The most significant one would be it's peace work is sabi nga nila na very abstract ang peace work. Also human rights work. But it's from my 20 years of experience, it's very important that you work with people who also share your values and principles. I mean, you work with them. Kasi it's not about you. It's the issue that you do advocacy for. So it's great to be working with like the likes of Mia, Mirma, and all and our other Gentis elders. It's great. It's a huge support for the advocacy. Not for me, but for the advocacy that we do. It's sharing this work with people who share the same values and principles that for your work.
Okay. Sige, for me, I think, just to give a context, I think it's also very easy kasi na parang masway in this work, especially because there are a lot of milestones, and these milestones are usually recognized. But I think one thing that I really learned, especially through Gen P's, is that hindi ko yung topic nun. So you don't have to get, parang hindi ka pwedeng madala ng recognition, or when people parang sige, you accept it when people say that, oh, you did a good job, but you have to remember and remind them at the same time that what you're talking about is not really about you, but you're just being a tool for a bigger community that needs a voice. And also, that's one thing that I really appreciate about working with Gen P's now, and also with the different members, is that they know that they're working with a bigger number of people, and that bigger number of people is really the center of the work. And I think it can never really be something na um, parang, especially sa piecework, hindi pwedeng ma-measure yung success with the number of articles or recognition over tweets or etc., but really with how connected you are with the community, which also leads me back to my significant learning, is that nasabi ko na to kanina, that I'm a part of a community. And yung community na sinasabi ko nila is really Gen P's, and to be really specific. And um, I think nagko-connect lang lahat talaga eh, that even if you are a part of a community, you would always be reminded to listen and also to be humble, which also is self-reflection. So yun yung mga kinonect-connect ko na lang.
Very zen ang yung ano no, how I say it's very holistic how you view this work and your significant learning, how it connects to your personal life. Yung may ano siya, yun yung alam mo yung konsepto ng zen. Parang ganun yung nakikita ko it's you know in its realistic form. So siguro just going back to your point on community. And ano ba yung ibig sabihin mo dun sa when you say community? Can you go deeper into the discussion of what is a community for you? Kasi a community, how is community defined pa? Is it like your kapitbahay? Is it your immediate family? So ano ba yung community for you? And of course, after Mia, Deb, of course, if you have some additional points, maybe you can share on what the community is about.
Okay. I think for me, it's not going to be anything coming from the books, but really from experience, that I consider Gen P's now as the community that I'm part of. Kasi we've learned how to share this common goal. or this common, how do I say it? Parang meron na kaming common ideas or common principles that we share with, and we want to move forward together to be able to reach what we want to achieve. And actually, to be honest, iba-iba yung goal din actually ng iba't ibang tao sa network, but really yung heart to be able to see like a peaceful community, a much more better community, or a much more better society in general. That's what really pushes you to be with them. Because you have to flock with the people that think alike, not like really literally point to point alike, but you have to be able to stick and work with people that share the common principles. Kasi kung hindi, madali kang masway, and that's very hard if andun ka sa community na madali kang from point A bigla kang point Z, wala kayong mararating ng ganun. So uh, this community that shares common principle values keeps you grounded and keeps you afloat of where you have to go.
Thank you, Mia.
For me naman, particularly what a community or ano yung community na kino-consider ng Gentees, yeah, it's the young people. It's the young peace builders actually. But going beyond um, the members of Gentees is really the community based on school-based communities, the communities, the grassroots. I mean, part of the advocacy of Gentees is really building leaders, building communities of peace advocates and human rights defenders, but really a community na nabubuo within the relationship among peace builders, among the community partners is siya din yung community na nino-nurture mo kasi we're working with young people who are greatly affected by armed conflict or their area is vulnerable to conflicts. That's the community that we're describing, that Mia and I are describing. I mean, the really focus on young people and young women.
Yeah, thank you, Bev. So talaga yung, going back to what Mia said, yung finding a community that shares the same values that we have, not really the same everything, no, not point by point, but really finding the same values, principles that can really tie you together. Towards what Bev was talking about, yung a community that works together for peace and human rights. So, ang ganda nun, and ang ganda na nakakita kayo at nakahanap kayo ng ganung community. Can you give some tips maybe to the young people that's watching or the parents and other professionals who are watching this particular video? How can they start, finding their own community? How did you start? Maybe you can share with that. But how can they start finding their own community? Kasi nga, di ba, now, there are so many things that's happening online, and it's easy to be, it's easy to be influenced by the things that's happening online and all the so-called influencers. So now, in the time of this online reality, how can young people or even young professionals find their own community?
Okay. At the bit.
Okay. How can young people find their own community? I mean, katulad din sinabi ka na, I don't know if, sa akin kasi natural na I found people who share the same vision, dreams, principles, and values. So I started linking up with these people and talking about issues. I know a lot of people are young people, nasa age sila na nagsa-search sila. Like, I mean, peers, peer support. I think everybody should start looking at their self. And then sinasabi nga nila na you're being judged people judge you based on who you are associated with. And I think doon natural na rin kasi sa nature din ng work ko, I think I found few special people that I can relate with. And I think doon din nag-start ang Gen Peace
Mhm.
of finding a community that they can talk to, work with, and translate their visions, dreams into a reality.
So parang it's important for them to understand first, no, their values, their own personal values, their own principles,
Yes.
and finding people who share these values
Yeah.
and principles. So buti na lang, Bev, no, nakahanap ka ng gano'n.
Andiyan ka din.
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Mia.
For me, I think I will answer it two ways. First one is when we do it or when we look for a community offline. So like physically may interaction. And then the other one is online. So maybe I'll start with online. When you look for a community online, I guess whether it may be like an art community that you found on Discord or something, you always have to know that this is not everything. What you see online is not everything. And you have to always be reminded of that so that you can also learn how to go deeper in connecting with them. I think that's also the same way, I guess, when you try to connect with other people offline. First impression, maybe you think, hindi ko sila ka-vibes. But then eventually you will realize that maybe mas sila pala yung community that will actually help you. So I think I will relate it to saying that you have to be open. Number one, you really have to be open, and you can't judge anyone, especially if you've just met them first time. Kasi people also change, and it would also be good that when you look for a community, you look for a community that will also encourage you or inspire you to change collectively. Not just you, but then also you will also see them parang changing maybe sa work or personally. And I guess that's also very important when you look for a community. But then also another one that I wanted to share, when you look for a community, that medyo contradicting to sa pagiging open, but you also have to be very critical. Especially ngayon. I think it's easy to look for a group of people, but it's not easy to look for a group of people that can actually really help you and will allow you to grow towards the right path. So, yun lang.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you for giving those tips to not judge people muna. What appears online is not the entire story. It's not the entire thing. So thank you. Now I would like to go naman. So you're talking about your work, your life. But sometimes kasi di ba people have this misconception. Ano bang ginagawa ng peace advocates? Ano ba yung ginagawa niyo? Parang uh, ano ba yung peace advocate? Unicorn ba yun? Parang people don't really know. So sometimes it is a challenge when you talk to friends, especially the ones you just met. Lalo na pagka-online, no? Hindi yung face-to-face. Na, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a peace advocate. What is that? Di ba? What do you do? So how do you share, how do you share your work? How do you share your values to the people that you meet, to your friends and even families? Kasi oftentimes, diba, our families sometimes, when you ask them, alam niyo ba kung anong ginagawa ko? So they have like a total different answer, which is quite funny sometimes. Yung anak ko, ano yan, peace advocate yan. Ano ba yung peace? Basta peace advocate yan.
Yes, gets.
Yeah, so yun. So how do you share, peace to the people you meet, your friends and family?
Hmm. Sige, maybe I'll start. So, for me, I think yung parents ko, medyo hindi pa rin sila sure kung anong ginagawa ko. But they're wondering, may training ka na naman, ano na naman ginagawa mo, blah, 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 blah. But they know that I'm not doing anything wrong. But, so I guess mas makukwento ko kung paano ko sinishare yung work ko with my friends. So, I have a lot of friends and most of them not in the development work. So what I do is I share a certain situation or like from the news. Okay, so ito yung, 'di ba, ito yung nangyayari ngayon sa ganitong place. So, um, i-explain ko sa kanila kung ano yung nangyayari. Then I will say na, okay, this is how we can help. And our work is to do this on behalf of this, or to be able to go to communities and also be able to do trainings or workshops. That's one way of actually sharing what I'm doing. But with my parents, little bit, especially if they're the kind of people that don't have any idea what development work is, hindi mo sila pwedeng sabihan na, oh, ito yung framework, ito yung ganyan. No, I think never na lang maiintindihan yung sinasabi mo. So, you always have to look for little bit or pieces that they can relate to. So, definitely, yung makikita nila sa news. So, that's the easiest way of actually explaining what we do and what is the nature of our work.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
think
Mia. Go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, I think same din yung experience. Although 20 years na ako sa work, nahirapan talaga ako sa simula. I-explain ko ano yung trabaho. Recently, pamangkin ko, ang akala niya, ang trabaho ko lang ay umupo at umattend ng meetings. Dahil lagi,
That's very funny.
Oh my God!
tapos kasi lang lagi niya masasabi, ay maririnig sa akin na, oh, saan ang schedule, saan ang punta ko ngayon? Pupunta ako ng Ortigas for a meeting. Yung mga ganun ba, may specific place, tapos specific group na sasabihin ko. Pero sa akin, it's really, pupunta ka kung katulad ng sinabi ni Mia, pupunta ka kung nasaan sila nanggagaling. Yan, katulad sa parents ko. Based sa news, you explain to them what's really happening, not just they hear
Yeah.
hear and see from the headlines, but you explain to them better, deeper. And of course, sa atin kasi uso lalo na ngayon, uso ang mga fake news. You provide them data or evidence-based. I mean, very vague ang pagkakasabi ngayon sa balita ng mga bagay-bagay. Particularly kung nangyayari sa Mindanao, ganito ang problema ng mga healthcare system. You explain to them, particularly coming from a perspective of human rights, explain mo yan, klaro. Sa pamangkin ko naman, when it comes to assignments, minsan tinitingnan ko nadadaanan ko yung mga lecture nila, lalo ngayong online, medyo mali ata ang pagka-explain ng mga concepts. So, coming from development work, women's gender equality, tapos leadership, you explain to them from what you are actually working on. Tapos, explain mo din na tawag dito, na ang work na to is really contributing to peace in the country and development. So yun yung pagkaka-explain how to do. And of course, when you meet new people, iwasan natin ang jargons na tayo lang nakakaintindi. Yun talaga ang number one na nakaka-turn off sa mga new people. To explain it to them, yung sinabi ko nga na kung saan sila nanggagaling. Ang HR ay human resources sa ibang tao, ang HR human rights sa atin. So you understand, tayo bilang mga development workers, tayo na din ang may bit-bit na mag-adjust din actually. Mag-adjust how you explain your work, how you explain peace to people.
Thank you. Oo nga naman, talagang those jargons can sometimes, you lose people when you try to discuss what do you do? Oh, I do this. Parang, okay, na-shut down na sila or they've already filtered it in a way that they're hearing you, but they're not understanding you. So, kaya ako naman tinanong sa inyo, the reason why I asked you, how do you share these values to your friends, the people that you're around, most especially your family, is because, one way for us to influence other people is really by connecting with them. And if we don't have that connection with people, and if we can't understand it to to where they are at, we might lose the opportunity. So in closing, essentially my last question, just one last question. Can you share with us one of the most memorable things that you can share that's part of your peace journey? So you can take a moment to think about it because this was not part of the questions I originally gave you, but just to think a moment, for you, what was that one specific experience or chance that you came across that really tumatak sa puso sa inyong peace journey?
Ako siguro, it happened in 2015. Kasi yung yung Bangsamoro Peace Process. So, akala ko hindi sa generation ko or sa lifetime ko mangyayari yung signing of a peace agreement, but in 2015 I was a witness of a signing of a peace agreement na akala namin hindi mangyayari. But aside from the signing, it's really seeing different peace advocates, different religions coming together for our gathering to celebrate a milestone sa peace sa Pilipinas. I mean, you'll see people celebrating, interacting, talking na ganun din yung feeling nila na akala natin hindi mangyayari sa lifetime natin. Yung iba nga nagpahaba ng buhok na hindi daw magpapagupit hanggat walang peace agreement. Pero it happened in our lifetime, the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. So that's one unforgettable experience in my work.
For me, it's very, very simple. So it happened naman 2018. It happened in a very small room. So 2018, Gen Peace was running Education for Democracy and Human Rights. That was the very first one. And usually after the sessions, may mga questions na yung mga tao kasi talagang parang kailangan nilang mag-isip kung ano talaga yung na-experience nila or ano yung pinagdadaanan nila. So, we take it to our rooms and we go from one room to the other and we just share. And one thing that I cannot forget up until now is that we finished around 4 a.m. just saying or talking about the context of where everyone was coming from. That was very significant for me kasi that's when I realized that I can really share my life or I can really say that this is my life when I was talking to these people. And hopefully after the pandemic, people can also do that again. So, kasi that's also when I realized what community means to me, what listening is, and what humility actually really means. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. So thank you so much, Bev and Mia, for sharing your time with us. So that's all for now. Thank you all for listening in. I hope that you were able to pick up a few things from our sharing with Mia and Bev. So until next time, here at our sacred space, our peaceful classroom. Bye.
In today's episode, we were able to listen to Bev and Mia, who generously shared with us their peace journey, how it all began, and how they realized the importance of peace. Through their stories, we got a glimpse of their different challenges and how they overcame these. Through their engagements with people of different culture and beliefs, they were able to share with us that peace, despite the differences, is possible. They gave emphasis on the importance of listening and examining our own beliefs and biases to become agents of peace and change. It was Pope John Paul II who said, "To reach peace, teach peace." Peace education changes lives. It also has the power to save lives. I hope that today's episode was worth your while as it was mine. My name is Mirma Tico Ortiz. See you again here at our sacred space, our peaceful classroom.